Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I am Mason Lynott, and welcome to my senior exhibition of mastery, Novels in Numbers, the Power of Data Storytelling. Before we jump in, I'm going to introduce all of our panel members for us today. We have Mr. and Mrs. Lynott with us. They have a wealth of experience with data. My father's a branch manager at NVR Mortgage here in Myrtle Beach, and he's been a massive help and just general inspiration. He's a very hardworking man, and I wouldn't be here without him. Same thing for my mother. She's a former database administrator, and she's a wonderful lady. We also have two of my teachers joining us. We have Miss Penn. She is my informatics and theater teacher, both of which are relevant today. Also, we have my brother, Elijah. He's cool. We have Miss Burgess, who is my AP Language and Composition teacher. She has provided more of a concentrated inspiration for me today. And joining us virtually are Dr. Mukamal and Dr. Yancey. Dr. Yancey is the Associate Registrar for Information Systems at Coastal Carolina University. Dr. Mukamal was the Assistant Professor of Digital Culture and Design at CCU, and both of them have been previous guest speakers in our major. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, I have a story for you. We're going to watch this short 3-minute video together. Apologies in advance for the dead air, but I'm just going to let this play. Even today, that video is very powerful to me. When I was little, I used to watch videos like that, those comparison videos on YouTube when I would go in little rabbit holes. And here's why I think it's powerful. I could feel an air in this room. I feel like you think it was powerful as well. That, at its core, was a very primitive example of data visualization, data storytelling. You saw scale, that planetary scale as things just kept zooming out and getting larger to almost incomprehensible levels. And you experienced time. You had to sit through 3 minutes in silence for that video. I believe at its core, scale and time are what makes a story, especially in data storytelling. That air you felt was so massive. That emotion is really what drives me here today. A class that I take that invokes emotion in this way is theater. Both evoke that sort of raw, just feeling through their products. And I enjoy both of those classes thoroughly, and it's very important to point out that informatics and theater line up together in a very uniform way. There's a lot of things that overlap in those fields, and I'm going to show you just how theatrical data can be. So, now that you know my personal and academic history, let's sort of jump into my breathworks. I'm going to take you through my informatics course and what I learned along the way. The informatics major works like this. We are given a proposal by a client, which is usually a stand-in for Ms. Penn or another teacher, in which we have to build a product and display it to them. Then we create a team contract. These are our rules. This is how we'll hold each other accountable, who's going to do what, how long do we have to do this part of the project. Then we take on our design brief. This is sort of here's how we'll make this thing. Here's how much time it's going to take for us to do this thing. Here are the constraints for us to do this thing. And here's the budget that we need, hypothetical budget. Then we build the thing. That's our prototype. We initially started out with our individual prototypes where we all dived in and worked together. Then in our team prototype, we all combined the best of our ideas to create one big thing. Then our technical report, that is sort of our instruction manual for the product that tells you how to use it. And then we present our product through the client through a very businessy, professionally presentation. So this was our very first formal project. We were commissioned by Bath & Body Works to build a spreadsheet that can search through their inventory. This project was a staple in my learning and will be forever. The solution to this project was one function in a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet in which you take a cell and you look it up. It's called VLOOKUP. Through this product, we learned that we could just ask the question and get an answer. School teaches you to learn the process. Traditional school teaches you a process. You do things in 1, 2, 3, and you have to repeat it in 1, 2, 3. Informatics goes, here's step 4, here's step 87, and here's a little bit of step 1, but then we're going to jump right to step 106. You solve the problem in informatics. You don't learn the process. I believe at its core, that's what makes informatics a STEM-focused class, is the problem-solving element of it. Jumping to the final project, course 1, this one was a little bit more of a free rein. I decided to prove where we should put Pearson testing centers. For those unfamiliar, that's an international testing center where you can take things like the SAT. I aspired to tell where we should use these testing centers using population growth. Didn't really work because, well, let me just tell you why. Once again, I wanted to show the availability of testing centers in certain countries using, obviously, if there's more people in a country, there's got to be more stuff in it. So there has to be more testing centers in the country. These graphs tell you the top 5 states and how much they're growing. Top 5 what? What's happening there? What's happening there? I could have absolutely proven something with these charts. This was my very, very first data analysis using charts in Excel. And if you're not winning, you're learning. If there's anything that came out of this, I learned a lot about data analysis. This one's a bit better, I promise. In course 2, we were commissioned by an insurance company to create a demographical database to measure risk. The 2 factors we chose to measure risk were education and age. These charts actually do tell what they need to tell. This tells you how many people graduated high school. that tells you how many people who are old or not are in the customer base. But they don't confirm risk. These factors correlate to risk, but education doesn't necessarily cause somebody to get into car crashes more. This is also a project where we really emphasized the sort of small business level, I guess, of scope, in which we're in a school environment. We can't do everything. We don't have money. We have limited time and limited experience, so we have to really just be careful we're not like, let's build the whole internet again for this. Now this one was exciting. Miss Etherson, the web and digital communications teacher, gave us a proposal to create for her a database to filter and search through her CTE inventory. CTE stands for Career and Technical Equipment. So once again, another inventory database in which we can query and search through and look through and barcode in a bunch of her inventory, her physical inventory. This was our first actual real life client. And we had to abide by some CTE guidelines, which there's actually there's actually a lot that goes on in the background there. So abiding by these guidelines and doing all these things that like an actual real life person wanted us to, it was a lot of work. But we did have 8 people on this project instead of the usual 4. Still, tons of work. Oh boy, this one. So, this is a website. We had to build a website for a movie theater to sell tickets. This was a very, very code-heavy project. Even for informatics, we did a lot of coding. I specified in the area of PHP. That is essentially the code that connects all the other code. It was a super technical project, and we only had 3 people, so we really had to work on our team building. And I think we did pretty well. We divided up the work really well. It was sort of just, this was like the, I guess it was the effort check. It's not necessarily testing the skills that you've learned, it's testing your endurance. How far can you go? Finally, we have a project in which we were commissioned by a real estate company to create pretty graphics with location data. This was the first time we ever messed around in Tableau. It is a industry standard business intelligence and data visualization tool that I use for one of my products here, and it was actually a lot of fun. It got me really into data visualization. I realized that I could really put something together that was attractive and charming, and that sort of allured me into this past, I guess, story that I have with data viz. So why is this important? I believe the reason that I'm up here today is because obviously data storytelling and storytelling in general is everywhere. It's such a powerful thing, and you genuinely, how many of you have even heard of data storytelling before you entered this room? It's such a powerful thing, and it's barely talked about. So I want to show people just kind of how revolutionary this tool is that we have at our fingertips now, just very subtly. So this is the layout to my research. I'm going to tell you exactly what data storytelling is. I've been vague so far because I'm going to really hammer home what it is today. Then I'm going to show you how powerful it is with a couple demonstrations of just how strong graphics and charts can be over simple words and raw data. Then I'm going to go over some possibilities for misuse. Obviously, everything has to have its cons. Look at these chairs. The chairs that you're all sitting in right now. You don't need to look at them when you're putting your butt on. Just these over here. They're pretty redundant on first glance. They're red velvet chairs. They're okay. That's a chair, but these chairs have a story. They began as chairs in Coastal Carolina University's theater. That's the beginning. But the middle of our story, they were then used in Atlantic Stage, Miss Penn's old theater. Atlantic Stage closed, and these seats then moved into Miss Penn's theater class, because you can't have a theater class without theater seating. That's the end of the story. These chairs have a massive story behind them, and something just so redundant can have such a massive following behind it. I believe that everything in this world has its story. Everything in this world has a beginning, middle, and end. There's a reason everything exists. So let's understand sort of that people have stories to tell. And here's the story that I'm going to tell you today. Humans process images a stunning 60,000 times faster than text. Ladies and gentlemen, the story that I'm telling you today is that images are cool. I want you to draw a conclusion from this data. What were the 2 hottest days in February 2018? You have 5 seconds. Go. Right? Kind of hard to tell. Probably because it's small, but also probably because that's just a lot of information to digest. And it's hard to digest it with text and numbers. So I'll be nice and I'll convert it to a graph for you. Now tell me the hottest days. 5 seconds.
14th and 15th.
All right. See how much easier that was? It's so much easier to digest this information if it's in a pretty chart. Moving on. Hypothetically, what if I measured 1,750 colored samples from the world and measured them? I bet you can't tell me the 3 biggest colors here in 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3.
Almost.
I'll be nice again. Now, try again. 1, 2,
Red,
3.
blue,
There
and
we go. There we go. See, you're getting it. It's so much easier. Now look at this. Here's the last one. Every year, our country's average temperature rises by 0.16 degrees Fahrenheit. That's an entire degree increase every decade. Kind of hard to put that in perspective, right? I'll do it for you. Watch it slowly come on screen. This is the average temperature of our world from 1970 to 2010. It's the same perspective, but as you'll see, it gets a little more clear. Boom. Some reds appeared. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What's going on, guys? See how much easier it is to compare that data when it's in a nice, visual, colorful format? That's the key of what I'm telling you today. But now, because of that, it's not without its flaws. So let's go over some of the cons of data storytelling. Data fallacies. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the words that are on screen right now, but I'm going to briefly go over some examples of some. This is a graphic that you saw earlier. This is insurance data in which I believed, or I aspire to tell, that education causes risk. It doesn't. This is a common mistake known as correlation versus causation. These correlate. Education correlates with risk. The points add up a little bit, but there's no evidence to say that there was a direct cause for these things to align. Correlation versus causation is actually a very common mistake in the field of data analysis and is typically used without malice. So if you spot it in the wild, give it some grace. Here's another one you saw earlier. This is, once again, testing center data. I wanted to find out where we should put a Pearson VUE testing centers using population growth. This would be true if it was assembled correctly. This graph doesn't tell us that. In fact, it doesn't tell us anything. It is a meaningless insight. The insight that you can glean from this is nothing. There's a problem to solve, but there's no answer. Here's one that I found in the wild. This is 2012 presidential candidate data. I'm sure some of you are already seeing some things that don't add up here. Yes, the numbers don't add up. The slices are even despite there being a clear disparity in the pie chart. This graphic at its core is misleading. Misleading charts are typically often used with malice in our world and go in line with mis and disinformation. So, now that you understand the concept of data storytelling and everything that can go right and everything that can go wrong with it, I'm going to lay out some of the products that I've made for you today. I made a mock scenario in a simple Google search, literally just a Google search that took 0.000002 seconds, and then a question that I answered using data visualization, something that I just found in the world and decided to create a whole visualization about it. And then I have a policy proposal, an answer to future concerns that will be developed as we move along here. This is a cool chart I found, guys. Let's say I'm talking to someone and they say one side of the political spectrum is more violent than another. Let's say they say Democrats are more violent than Republicans. Now, let's not get political, but if I wanted to refute that claim and I showed them this, that wouldn't be a very smart thing. what's wrong with this chart? Well, for one, let's pretend we're in the year of our Lord 2024, and I used this hunk. I don't want to say hunk of junk, but it's a thing. This survey was conducted in 2017, 2019. That is over 5 years ago. A lot's happened since then. Doesn't really feel like 5 years ago, but wow, that's a long time ago. So this data is probably not, it's not still integral to our current world. Obviously, if I were the friend of a man named Biff, I wouldn't be using this chart right. This claim, me pushing that one side is more violent than the other, the message behind the chart is that feelings of political violence rise. It's that both sides have been rising. In 2020, it skyrocketed. But is that even true that it skyrocketed? This text is a little small, so I'll just read it out for you here. These surveys right here from 2017 to 2019 were conducted in a sample group of 5,900. In 2020, the sample size was bigger, of over 6,000. You can't just change sample sizes. Like who made this thing? Like what? This chart was the third result on Google when I Googled political charts. It took me literally less than a second to find this chart. So the next time you're having a conversation with somebody on some social media and you say something and they refute it and they show you some data, look closer, please, because they might have just done what I did today. It's really easy to find data on the internet, extremely easy. Look at all these pretty charts in red and blues that I found, but it's hard to find good data. That's the message I want to hammer in today, is that it's very hard to find good data. Now, a little bit of a personal anecdote here. I work at Lowe's Foods of Carolina Forest. It's the one, like over there. I'm the one who bags the groceries. I'm the one who goes, merp, 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 override, merp, merp, merp. That's me. I get to see a lot of, I see you smiling. He works there too. I look at lots and lots of food labels in my days. I get to see made with real honey, made with real milk, healthy for you, it's great for you, there's so much protein, there's absolutely no sugars, there's nothing wrong with it. They all tout these extremely healthy things, and quite frankly, I was sick of it. So I wanted to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of that and dig into, I wanted to investigate. Are they really telling the truth there? Is everything in the market healthy? Are all those branded aisle foods great for you? No, they aren't. But I decided to conduct some research today using the wonderful, wonderful ingredient of sugars. So I wanted to find a really cool database, and I did. I looked on the United States Department of Agriculture's website and found a database of all the branded foods that they have listed under their name. That's a lot of data. Like a lot. That's over 1 million records right there. Those poor computers we had in informatics class, they were screaming the whole time. Every time I tried to load in some query. But putting this whole thing together, I transformed the data. I gave it a bunch of filters that I could run through Excel, and then I put it in Tableau. So these filters will flag, they'll put a 0 if there's nothing, but they'll put a 1 if it contains sugar in the ingredients list. It explicitly says sugar in the ingredients list. But I also have some alternative names for sugar too. So it'll flag if it says dextrose, lactose, or fructose, and then I have an any field. So if it says it at all, if there's any sugar in the product at all, it will flag. So let's look at the thing. I don't think you guys are ready for this. Once again, my filters flag for dextrose, lactose, fructose, and sugar. It'll take a second to load, so.
He likes props in theater class too.
So here are 3 pie charts that list where these sugar names are. Lactose was flagged around 20,000 times in this database of a million. That's over 20,000 products that contain lactose in it. A little more with 22,000 that is dextrose. And then a staggeringly larger amount of almost 98,000 in our world is fructose. I believe the reason that that number is so much higher is because of the wonderful ingredient of high fructose corn syrup that is in everything. But here's my main takeaway today. These are the products that explicitly list sugar in their ingredients. That is over half, which, okay. Here's the amount of products that actually contain sugars. That is over half once again. But the disparity here is over 40,000. That is that's a 2% difference. That's not really a whole lot, is it? But then I took a step back and I realized maybe what I want to tell today it's not really that there's sugar hiding in food. You know, there's no sugar Illuminati that's shoving sugar into foods, but it's that I realized, wow, that is a lot of added sugar just in our foods. Are you kidding me? That's over half. That is a staggeringly high amount. I took the thing out of this.
That's right.
Staggeringly high. So my policy today is just, oh my goodness, we have so much sugar in America. Like, wow, no wonder. It'll come back to me. Oh no.
Just shrink the tableau.
Okay. Yeah.
Minimize.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Come back to me.
There you go.
There we go. There we go. All right. Now let's look. We looked at the thing, guys. So I thought I was going to find hidden sugar, but I really just found sugar that is explicitly shown to us. It's just there. We have so much sugar in our foods, and it's not even hiding, guys. So to qualify my claims here, sugar isn't necessarily unhealthy, but overconsumption can lead to health issues like diabetes and heart problems, and it should only make up about 10% of our diet. That's not a lot, by the way. The fact that it's hidden in any ingredients at all is pretty bad, but more often than not, I find that it's actually hidden in the food labels themselves. This is what I'm going to have for lunch.
I was going to say.
Yeah, as soon as we get here, I'm demolishing these, but 5 grams of protein. Oh wow, that's pretty healthy for us, but if you flip it over, I know it's kind of hard to see. 5 grams of protein is 3% of the amount of protein that you need in a day. The inverse is that it's double that for the amount of sugars. That's 6% of the sugars you need in a day. Double, literally double, but it's not advertised on the front because that's not a selling point. And so it's very, very easy to miss. By the way, this thing is on the fold. Who's going to look at the fold? It's so easy to miss. So, you know, it's not only is it hidden data-wise, sometimes it's hidden packaging-wise, but sometimes it's not even hidden. Or at least that's what they want us to think, right? No, I mean, based on what I've told you today, the internet is not 100% trustworthy. Things in real life aren't 100% trustworthy. And obviously we need to be careful of what we eat, but that's not what I'm really here to tell you. I'm not in charge of your diet. Many people use the internet for reasons that it was not originally used for. Many children have unrestricted access to the internet. How will future generations deal with being able to search up political chart in less than a second? How many children are going to be able to deal with mis and disinformation all over the web? How many people are going to just be uninformed and uneducated or wrongly educated by something they saw on the internet? So why shouldn't we emphasize this a little more as we grow as a society and as we grow as an education system? So here's something I found. This is something that's actually integrated into some education systems already. It is crap. It is the crap method, and it's how you find things that are crap. Once again, it's somewhat integrated into education, but it needs to be a little more prevalent. So I'm going to take you through it really quickly. How timely is this information? Does it support my claim? Like, at all? The political chart that I used did not support my claim, for example. And it was also from 2019, so it's not very timely. Is the source trustworthy? That source was actually from an opinion piece, funnily enough. Is it reliable and correct? These sort of, if any of these are flagged, then this one's going to get flagged too. If it's any of these is not going to be accurate. Is there a good reason it exists? The person who made it make it to prove this point. I think this method, this crap method, is something that our children should learn. This is something that we should just this should be as common as the golden rule. Treat people how you want to be treated. Treat that data how you would want to be treated, with respect. I know you don't want people to look inside you, but look inside those sources. I think adults should learn this too. There's a lot of adults that are uneducated with this too, because they didn't really grow up with the internet, but now it's all around them. Now that the internet's all around us, we should be protecting ourselves from the things that it can do to us. Society needs to learn how to critically analyze these sources. Otherwise, what's going to be the truth anymore? That's kind of the key to a bright and educated future, a bright and educated digital future. If we're not regulating, checking sources and making sure that everything is factual, it's the same thing as back in the medieval ages. We had a town crier going around and blowing that the plague is coming. We should be very, very careful about the information we digest, especially since there's such a wealth of information around us today. And that is where my products end, but it's not where I end. So, I learned a lot today. I learned a lot in the past week, and I learned so much in the past 2 years I've been here at AAST. I feel like I could do this as a job now. No, not standing up here and showing you crackers, but just playing with data and being knowledgeable with information. I've developed a lot of soft skills on the way. I've developed all those 21st century skills that I was touting earlier with my breathworks. And I've played with plenty of business standard tools, so I'm sort of accustomed to this medium. I can run a lot of things in Excel and Access, and I'd be completely fine. And while we're on the topic of informatics, still, here's a little bit on how this topic became what it is. Initially, I wanted to talk about how it's still sort of in line with the whole invocation thing, but the death of the expert. Now anybody can tell you anything that's going on. If a doctor comes up and tells you, hey, you're in danger, but then some other guy can tell you, hey, you're not in danger. You're going to trust the doctor, but there's a lot of places you can go around in the internet. But there's a lot of speculation around that topic, and I felt like doing something a little more grounded. Then I wanted to talk about mis and disinformation, but it wasn't personally enthralling to me because a previous senior did that for his senior mastery, and I wanted to do something brand spanking new. Then I wanted to talk about misleading marketing, but it was extremely broad and inconclusive, and I feel like it didn't have as much personal value to me as the power of data visualization. Now, here's some concentrated inspiration I got from this project. Obviously, our guest speakers that are joining us virtually were massive, massive helpers in brainstorming. And this book right here that I'm actually doing for my independent reading project, lots of awesome info about those data fallacies that I had earlier. So if there's any further reading you want to do on this topic, I would turn to books like this. Additionally, if you do want further reading, there's an awesome website called Visual Capitalist that is all about data viz. They love charts over there, and they make some really, really amazing things. I've also, teachers just in general, Miss Penn and Miss Burgess have been wonderful in sort of developing this idea for me. And this project was very, very inspired. And now that we're sort of coming on a close here, here's what I want to take away. Here's what I want you guys to take away from this today. I want you all to ask questions, because you will get answers. And if you don't get an answer, go ask it somewhere else. You have to be one of the worst people in the world to not answer a question that you know. Come on, man. Ask questions. I'm talking to you juniors too. I'm also talking to you juniors. Ask questions. You will get answers. Check your sources. That's one of the products that I made. That's my proposal to you, is that all of us, we need to check our sources. We need to be critical thinkers up here, and we need to think about the information that we digest. We all need to be fact checkers. And just stay curious. Be a lifelong learner. Always be willing to learn new information. Don't ever shut yourself off into a bubble. Don't ever always be open to opinions, facts, be open to everything. It's a sign of intelligence. It will make you smarter if you're just open to info. And here's what I want to do in the future. I believe, sort of in line to go to Ori Georgetown. Might go to Coastal. we'll see. Depends on who gives me more money. No. I'm definitely planning on going to college. I'm going to pursue. I might start broad with business, but if I'm still feeling this sort of drive to really get into data, I'll look into data science as a college major. I've also obviously I've been interested in marketing as of recently, so I might pursue a career in there. Just general businessy things is sort of what interests me right now. I'm not going to become a clown. I don't know why I put that in. And now I'd just like to acknowledge, obviously, my panel here today. They've been massive. They've been humongous helpers for me today, to develop what I've shown you today. Dr. Mukamal and Dr. Yancey, they've been fantastic for brainstorming and ideation. My parents, my brother, you guys are fantastic. Wouldn't be here without you. You guys are fantastico. Obviously, my teachers, you've been guiding me, helping me along the way, and I'm so very thankful. And I'd also like to thank Eddie, who unfortunately couldn't make it here today, and Dylan for being great team members across my entire informatics course. Thanks, guys, and thank you, all of you, individually. I will entertain, take, and respond to questions and comments at this time.
First, we'll give you a round of applause. Well done, well done. So we will we'll go first to your family, and if they have questions or comments to share, we'll start there.
Sure. I know you had said what you want to do with your career. You want to do possibly data science. Do you know what type of industry you're interested in at this moment? Like, who would you like to provide this information for? Who would it be? I want to give you a couple of examples, just so you know what I'm talking about. Like politics, since you mentioned it a lot, or perhaps the Nabisco company.
Well, it's definitely not politics. But I will tell you, I do think that data science is, well, my short answer is not sure, but my long answer is that data science as a whole can really just be used everywhere. It's the safety net of careers. Realistically, I could do it at a daycare, and I could do it at like a hospital. There's a billion different ways that I could go with data. So I'm just gonna kind of let the river flow, and as I get into little rivulets, I'll figure out what I want to do from there.
Sure. So you don't have any like connection to the product that you want to provide. I know data is data, and you take that because it's a thing, and you can just do with it what you want. But when there's a connection to it, like, ooh, I like working with.
Yeah, I mean, I just like working with data in general. I mean, I think if there was a specific type of data that I do enjoy the most, or I would like to entertain the most, it's like behavioral data and things like that.
Here we go.
That's the answer point.
No, not what I wanted. I just
not what I wanted.
No. Just
I know.
If I wanted you to. That's what I wanted to hear. Just something that interests you.
We that is a topic that Dr. Mukamal actually introduced, behavioral economics, and the study of how human behavior impacts business and economies. So that's a thing.
Obviously, a lot of my talk today was regarding human behavior, so that does sort of fall in line there too.
There's a lot of behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like this one.
I have a question. Why do you dislike belts so much?
I don't know, Dad. I don't know. I know.
Kids these days.
I was thinking like, man, I should wear a belt because it looked professional, but you know what? Hey, I'm rolling with it. And I was also going to wear those navy blue jeans I have today because I thought they were black. But just want to let that be known as well. What you got, Elijah?
This took all semester for you?
Yes, I've been working on this for the actual typey stuff. I'm working since Informatics 4, which was this semester. But it's been brewing in my brain since probably course 2, 3.
And that's incredible. And like your presentation skills were great, and you think you're confident in yourself to do more of it if you'd be interested in doing it.
Yeah, I could run this my whole life, I think. It's fun going up here and standing and Beautiful.
That's nice because I that's something I could never picture myself.
You take
doing.
public speaking class in college. You need classes. I don't need classes. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you he wasn't this good at it 2 years ago.
Right.
Because we do spend a lot of time presenting, and that I'll jump off of that and say that that Mason's done a ton of work in refining those skills, and it shows. It paid off here. So we'll go to Miss Burgess, your other panel member here in the
I have
room.
one more question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
And this is for the audience. Does anyone want to see a picture of Mason in a high chair with baby food on his face?
If you send me that, I'll put it on the website with the rest of his stuff. Miss Burgess, what you got?
I have a couple questions, but I think I'm just going to ask one. Early on in your presentation, you said that in informatics you learn to solve the problem rather than learning the process initially. What are some other areas in life or even in school where you think learning how to solve the problem first would be beneficial?
I think that sort of nipping it in the bud area is extremely helpful in any career, really. Like, obviously, you're not going to be, if you're working a job, you're gonna want to know how to solve problems in that job. So if I was working for like HTC and like the phone line went down, I'm not gonna sit there and watch a video on how to fix the phone line. They're just gonna tell me to fix it. I'm like, okay, I'll fix it, and then you fix it. So it's an extremely career focused skill to just be able to problem solve without going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Do you have a process for solving problems?
Absolutely, yes.
That was a very pointed question.
There's absolutely a process.
Yes.
Yes.
So maybe you could clarify this. There's when you say there's no process, you mean there's no step-by-step
There's no
instructions.
step-by-step. Yeah, there's no. There can be instructions, but there's no. It's not. You're not enforced to
solve the problem this way.
Yes, it's about mastery, not memory, I guess.
That's a good way to put it. Good. All right, so now we'll jump to our online guests. So yesterday we started with Dr. Mukamal, so let's start with Dr. Yancey today. And we'll put him there so you can see him.
First, I wanted to tell you, great job.
Thank you.
It's a fantastic job. I love seeing the journey from the beginning to the end. One thing I want to ask you made mention throughout your presentation about how we're just awash in data now. And you mentioned misinformation and disinformation, and there's been a lot of conversation about that recently, about how to combat that. And one of the things you talked about was effectively digital literacy, understanding where data is coming from, the validity of the data, and the CRAP process, right?
Yes.
Knowing what you know now, if you could design the education system, where would you put that?
Like in what level of education would I put that?
Where would you have loved
Yes.
to begin learning that?
I think it is an absolutely nightmarish thought that my sister got her first computer in kindergarten. I think that media and digital literacy should ideally be taught like probably 4th grade level, when they're, if I'm recalling my psychology right, that's when they can start rationalizing, is around when they can start rationalizing information and not just taking everything in, but actually qualifying it before they take it in. That it'd be most helpful there, I believe.
Very interesting.
Good answer. All right, we'll check in with Dr. Mukamal.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic job, Mason. Seriously, I was enjoying it tremendously. Ms. Ten said accurately, I was in transit for the beginning of your presentation, and don't look at data visualization when you're driving a car. Actually, right, I wanted to participate in the can you see the trend in the chart? No, in all seriousness, you're speaking so eloquently, and Dr. Yancey is emphasizing this as well in his comments, to the importance of digital literacy, specifically of being critical consumers of data, not passive consumers of data, but rather critical consumers of data. I love Dr. Yancey's question. This is actually a similar question to one that I asked in an intro-level class that I teach in digital culture and design on technology and humanity, and I asked my students about their own digital literacy journeys and about their education and get them to reflect in a sort of self-reflexive way about how these concepts were, if at all, presented to them in their school careers and at which levels. And I've also been similarly, to be completely frank, I've been horrified by the response because it seems like it's just not a part of the curriculum in any sort of meaningful, robust, standardized way. And so I think that your work is extremely important and has the capacity to influence education policy. So that you said that you're sort of interested in business at this time. I think that's awesome. I think you have the tools to go into a variety of fields, and I think that's really powerful and cool. So just keep in mind that you can use this knowledge that you've cultivated about data and data visualization and the power, the sort of affective and emotional power that different forms of data visualization can have to convince people of things, rightfully or wrongfully, with malice or without, as you said. You can use that as a tool in your toolbox, regardless of where you end up. I have one question for you about disinformation and misinformation and how it inflects or has intersected with your thinking about data visualization. But first, I just want to give you some compliments and one comment. So I'll give compliments, comment, and then end with that question. The first compliment I have is that I was really struck by your capacity in your presentation style to blend your theater background with your informatics studies. I found you extremely captivating to listen to, really emotive, excellent enunciation. I really loved how you showed us the processing speed difference between visual and textual information rather than simply telling it. That series of compare the chart to the graph was really impactful, and I think really from the perspective of pedagogy, that is how to teach people things. It is not to tell them, it is to show them the difference. So that was excellent, excellently done. I love your point about problem solving in informatics and the difference between mastery or creative problem solving, iterative, collaborative problem solving. That's really reflects hands-on projects that you do in informatics versus memorize a process of how to solve a problem without that hands-on practice. I thought that was really well said. Let's see, I think I have my notes right here. Last but not least, my comment before I ask my question is really, speaking of bias, I know you mentioned you may go to HGTC, you may go to Coastal. I really think you would love some of the digital culture and design classes. So kind of regardless of where you end up, if you're able to or two in DD, I think you would love it. Specifically 309, which is a course I teach. It's called Interactivity and Culture, but the entire course is about data-driven storytelling. And we are learning to critique data visualizations put out by various governmental agencies and research bodies like NASA, versus the data visualizations that we learn to create through Tableau. So I think you would love delving deeper into Tableau. So just wanted to say, like, it is really common at the college level to have students like majoring in business, but they just take a couple of classes in data visualization and data literacy in DCD because they want that skill set. So that wouldn't be weird or abnormal or anything. I think, obviously I'm biased in encouraging you to take DCD classes, and you should know that, but I'd love to have you. I think you would get a lot out of them. And then finally, my question for you is the difference between disinformation and how that, I guess, intersects with the idea of the intention, or you used the word malice, which is maybe even stronger. And could you kind of give us an example of the difference between those two and how that's how you've seen that in your research, and especially looking forward to the next presidential election. This is going to be really ramping up in popular discourse. So yeah, just anything you want to say on disinformation, misinformation, and how it intersects with data literacy. Thank you so much. Brilliant job.
Thank you. I think that I'll give a little example. I think misinformation, if you're aiming at a dartboard and the bullseye is the 100% true facts.
It's almost class change.
Okay, all right. Misinformation is hitting the wall with the dart. Disinformation is throwing a book at the dartboard. Misinformation is you're telling information, but it's misleading. It's leading you down the wrong path. Disinformation, it's like the difference between misleading graphs and meaningless insights. Disinformation is completely meaningless and can lead you in the wrong direction, but it can also just lead you nowhere at all. It's slop, essentially, I think. I think the difference between that is one is intentionally made to misguide, and the other is just dead in the water muck.
So like with and without malice?
Yes, I think misinformation is significantly more malicious in nature than disinformation because it's both harder to spot and harder to create.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna ask Dylan, did you want to say anything or ask anything?
I don't have any questions, but just great job overall. I think your presentation, it was very intriguing. I like the examples, the interactives, just great job overall. I think you've grown a lot throughout this course and presentations. Like, you were very well spoken. I was very impressed.
Thank you, appreciate that.
I will echo that as well, of course, and I have been thoroughly enjoyed having a student who loves theater and data as much as I do and is intrigued by it in similar ways. That has been a lot of fun. And every senior that I've had graduate so far, the one comment when they come back from college, I get text messages that say, "Thank God for my presentation skills," because they sit through so many of their colleagues' presentations that are horrible. So they have really, I think that part will serve you well, no matter what. And it's been great fun. And my one question for you is this the only day of high school that you haven't worn a scarf?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad someone else brought it.
Yeah. So for those online, that's his signature piece,
Yes.
is a scarf. And I realized partway through this presentation, and my stomach did a little flip flop because I was like, oh my gosh, he's not wearing a scarf, and I didn't know how to feel about it. So was it intentional?
It's symbolic.
It is it? I love that it's symbolic. Yes, the scarf, that your neck has been revealed,
Yes.
I guess. That's fun. It's super fun. It's been a great run, and we'll talk more about it in class, but excellent job. Thank you so much. Our online folks, appreciate you being here again. Mason, if you'll pull your main slide up and we'll get ready to take a photo. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Really
So
good
good.
job.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Yay.